And then, what is the function of multimodality in construing enslavement discourses in Greek and Latin textbooks? In other words, in the field of education, so I had just got my PhD in language and literacy education, and obviously I specialize in classics. And in the field of education, they love the word multimodality right now, and it is the inclusion of other modes. It often means images, like I'm going to show you some pictures, and but it can be any kind of modes. It can be gestures. I gesture a lot. It can be any kind of modes. And anytime you're looking at multiple modes, so text and pictures, gestures and audio, then you're dealing with multimodality. And then what is the function? And in other words, yeah, how are the images and texts being used to construe enslavement? So in answering these, I turn to multicultural education theory, and it's a social justice movement that is aimed at creating a more equitable society through education. And it developed out of the Black civil rights movement in the 1960s. And it has anti-racism principles at its core. And it began in what were Black studies departments, ethnic studies departments, and since has expanded. It advocates for the examination and reconfiguration of the education system at micro and macro levels. So who are the leaders, and what are the organizations, and how are they functioning? And then on top of that, and then what's happening in the classroom, and what are our textbooks, and how are our students experiencing this? So this includes considerations of student learning, teacher training, and structural reform in education. And I highly recommend reading everything by James Banks, who's known as the father of multicultural education, perhaps grandfather now, but okay, so we have multicultural education, which gives me a framework for how and why I am asking these questions. And then I also combine it with systemic functional linguistics. And so functional linguistics is, how is language functioning to send a message in a social context? Which, when I say that out loud, it's a lot of what we do all the time. But this field, this theory and methodology gives us the tools to articulate what we're seeing. So I'm going to show you some examples of this. So it emerged in the 1960s, no coincidence, simultaneously with movements of equity like multicultural education and the Black Civil Rights Movement. And then it's a toolbox of resources for examining the social function and meaning of language. And the meaning of language, going back to the importance of definition, language is a network of relationships, and description shows how these relationships are interrelated. And explanation reveals the connection between these relationships and the use to which language is put. And that's precisely what I'm hoping to give you insight to here. So what is my data set? I chose 5 popular Greek and Latin textbooks. Popular was based off of some statistics, although not much was out there as far as officially statistics of who uses what textbooks in what context, which would be a fantastic study that we should do. But so it's a lot of my own experience. These are all books I've taught from and was required to teach from at different universities. Here at University of Georgia, I have to teach from Athanasde. For Latin, we use Wheelock's. But since Wheelock's doesn't really talk about enslavement and is not a reading approach, I don't use those books in this analysis. So we have Athanasde, we have Cambridge Latin course, and reading Latin, which I used at Ohio State, and Ecce Romani, and Latin for the New Millennium, which I used when I was teaching middle school and high school. So based on these, I gathered 40 pages of data in Greek, Latin, and in English, and I analyzed their content. So the methodology is appraisal analysis, systemic functional linguistics, we just shortened to SFL. So appraisal is, how are people and things being described and assessed for value and worth in a community or a society? What is the function? What is the purpose of that? So by dissecting the word choice and syntax and use of images, we have, okay, so um, by, yes, by dissecting that we can talk about these underlying messages, many of which have remained in an area of invisibility or silence, because it can be difficult to identify, talk about, and articulate the issues. And this really helps get at the bottom of that. And then transitivity. So appraisal is, think of your emotions, your character, how an author is portraying the emotions and character of someone they are writing about. And transitivity is, who are the participants? Who is doing what to whom? What is the function? Why? Why are they doing that? Okay. So I'm just going to give you some examples, and hopefully you all will want to turn to my dissertation. You can read a lot more about the details. I'm going to forego really detailed aspect of the linguistics. So you're going to see things like affect, appreciation, judgment, lexical metaphor. I'm not going to go into that because of time, what all of those mean, but I'm hopefully going to give you a sense. And then in my dissertation, I promise you, chapters 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, you get to learn all about the details of each of these. But for now, here's one example. So I pulled this from Ecce Romani. And Dawus is an enslaved man who is at the a slave auction, and he is on the pedestal now being sold. And this is the description given in the English context section. He felt pretty uncomfortable standing there, like an exhibit at the cattle market, but he put the best face on it, looking around challengingly at the bidders. So by coding the emotions, that is, he's uncomfortable, right? So this is an affect, so he's feeling uncomfortable up there, but he's like an exhibit at the cattle market. So you're creating a lexical metaphor that puts the character into the group. So the group is now cattle. So in your brain, you're associating cattle market is slave market, and the ubiquity of cattle markets is the ubiquity of the enslavement human selling markets. And I think that these things happen, I argue no intention, and this is not an effort to embarrass any authors, but I think this, because we don't take that time to think about this thing, we haven't taken that time, we need to take that time. And by, let me clarify, a lot of people do take that time. And so this is doable, necessary, but this is how that messaging slides in there. Okay, so it's like a cattle market, this common thing. And he put his best face on. So he wants to look good, right? And looking around challengingly, like, I'm a good choice. There's some ways this could have been reframed to be interpreted as challengingly, like, you know, he's upset or something, but that's not the sense here in the function of this word choice. So now I'm going to show you a picture. I don't have the rights to this picture, and I won't be publishing this, so I want you to know that, but this is from the textbook, Ecce Romani. I talked to you about the graphs, or the example that I gave you of coding, and it's from this passage right here that you see to the right. And notice also it's an opportunity taken to teach the students lessons on language, like mangone. So look, read about this slave who's this enslaved man who's, you know, trying his best to be sold well, and also learn some Latin while you do it. So notice how, look at this image, and this is the multimodal part. You have, these are model poses, and this reinforces the function. I think you can see my cursor, correct? If I'm moving it, maybe not. But the poses of the two men being sold here, and they, I think, reinforce the interpretation that you know, they're there and they're feeling uncomfortable, but they're there and they're going to do it. Okay, so not only do I code and analyze the material, but I think it's essential to compare it to other eras and enslavement systems, and particularly to draw that line to the racism element. Um, but first, I want to give you an example of a counter narrative. So we don't have first person, many first person accounts of enslavement in the ancient world, but we do have lots in the modern world, especially 19th century America. And you can go to the UNC website documenting the South, and there are hundreds. And I think we need to get a team of classicists analyzing these. There's so much classics, references and rhetorical devices, and it's hundreds of freedom narratives by formerly enslaved Black people in America. So highly recommend that. And that's where I turn to